Welcome back to the VST channel. Yet another brutal test, the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra versus the Xiaomi 14 Pro, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 and the latest Adreno GPU versus the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Now, I'm not sure if you have seen all the videos that I did so far, but I'm using Tacostats to display the information from both phones. On the S23 Ultra, I'm able to display the CPU usage and also the CPU temperature on the SoC from the temperature sensor and also the FPS. On the Xiaomi 14 Pro, I'm also able to get the GPU temperature, right? It is recorded on the SoC. So I'm using Tacostats because I got some questions. So Tacostats to display the FPS, it requires Shizuku, and you can watch one of my videos to see how that's implemented. Now, another thing, guys, very important, I'm going to use Wi-Fi on both phones, and this time the S23 Ultra is going to start with 100% and the Xiaomi 14 Pro is going to start with 95%. All phones do run on the very latest OSs. All phones run on the highest resolution, the WQHD, and I'm going to use the auto brightness mode on both phones, okay, so that we just try to equalize the settings. And if you're here the first time, you might want to check some of my other videos testing the camera, the performance. I do have also the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I'm using it to shoot the video. And if you're new here, then just know what I'm going to do, guys. So this is one of the settings. The other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to initiate a Facebook Messenger call between those two phones and playing the game. But I want to be very straight on something. The Xiaomi 14 Pro is very new. Right now it's only available in China, so there is no global version. And the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 seems to be a very new chip. Why? Well, I tried to test some other games like the Asphalt 9, and I didn't have the mode to enable 60 FPS here. And later you're gonna see, I'm also gonna test PUBG. I didn't have here all the highest settings available on the Xiaomi 14 Pro the way I have for the S20 Ultra. And the same applies also for Call of Duty. So what I'm saying is that right now it's probably not the best time to test these games on an 8 Gen 3 device, because first, apparently we only have a few Chinese vendors that implemented it. So there is no global support right now, and technically also we have vendors like the people producing the mobile games developers that still have to optimize their games. But it is what it is. So I have those two devices, guys, and without any further ado, let me initiate my Facebook call and we're gonna start PUBG. So in this session I'm gonna test the PUBG and also the Call of Duty. It is what it is, and we need to find out which phone is doing better. The 10 months S23 Ultra is already optimized, received a lot of stable updates, or the very brand new Xiaomi 14 Pro is brand new on the market with the 8 Gen 3. The Facebook call has been initiated, no effects have been used. I'm gonna minimize it, so the idea is to just get it here. This is very important, guys. Please pay attention to the FPS, okay? FPS, frame rate per second. Then here we have the CPU utilization, which again in this game is also higher. And this is the very same behavior that I've seen also on CarX. But let me go inside the settings and show you something very important. I go inside the graphics and audio, and I want to highlight something. So right now on the S23 Ultra, I have the HDR and the extreme frame rate, right? And I have the same setting on the Xiaomi 14 Pro, okay? So it's the HDR and also extreme setting. And this is kind of good. I cannot use any other combination. I want to use the same combination of graphics and also frame rate per second, just to make sure that we are comparing apple to apples and not apple to oranges. In this case, Samsung to Xiaomi's. All right, now let's just go back in the game and let's just see what is going to happen. Okay, we have the setting right now. Okay, right now FPS 60 here, FPS 60 here. Okay, one more time, just to be 100% sure, I want to go back and check the graphics and audio. So I'm inside the graphics and audio, and what we can see is HDR and extreme. It's HDR and extreme. So we have technically the same setting, and now the game starts, guys. Pay attention to the FPS. Please also pay attention to the CPU allocation. What I can already see for the very first 2 minutes of gameplay is apparently the Xiaomi 14 Pro is just taking too much of a CPU. 60 CPU allocation versus 48 to 50 CPU on the S23 Ultra. But it's not the phones to be blamed. Again, it could be the OS, it could be optimizations, development from the game or from the OS. All right. Anyway, we now have the Facebook Messenger video here. So technically this went very bad for the Xiaomi 14 Pro in Correct Street. I have now high hopes, and I do believe that this game is better optimized, and we have to yet see what is gonna happen. Okay, now I'm just gonna try play a bit and see and take it from here. Okay, some stable FPS, by the way. Right now we can see stable FPS on all phones, stable 60 FPS for the S23 Ultra, and stable 60 FPS also for the Xiaomi 14 Pro, which is actually quite nice. The CPU allocation though, it's a bit higher, guys. You can see it almost goes to 65-70%, and the CPU allocation on the 8 Gen 2 on the S23 Ultra is lower. So driving is gonna be fun, and now we're back to CarX, right? But see here, guys, steady 60 FPS, not an issue at all. I'm really happy to see this result. So it really seems that CarX absolutely trash optimized for the Xiaomi 14 Pro or even for 8 Gen 3. 60 FPS, not a problem at all. Facebook video here running. We just have a clear, oh my God, clear footage. Somebody just tried to go fully GTA on me, and now back on the S23 Ultra. And what we also can see that the temp readings from the sensors are a bit different. So we have here 50 Celsius on the CPU. Here we have 10 degree, slightly higher. Let's now measure the real temp readings from the surface of the phone. Only 39.6 for the Xiaomi 1440, and on the back, somebody shooting me 40. Please don't shoot me, I'm just doing a video for YouTube. People don't care. 39 on the Galaxy S23, 39.6, very similar temps, guys. And on the back, you know the story, guys. Sorry. You try to shoot me, but maybe I'm quicker. No, I'm not quicker. Okay. Yep. All right, guys. Can I not run over somebody? No. But we have a very nice 60 FPS graphics on the Xiaomi 14 Pro. 60 FPS, and I think here the game is almost over for me. So technically, I don't think that this is a challenging scenario for both of those phones. And I do believe that we can play longer and longer with having a Facebook video messenger call and not have one of those issues. Now, guys, what I'm gonna do, I'm not going to close it, just minimize this application, and I want to start the next one, still keeping my video call. And the next one, as you know, is gonna be the Call of Duty. Please pay attention. This is what I was referring in the beginning of the video. I have the very high graphical settings on the S23 Ultra, and it's the same on the Xiaomi 14 Pro, but I have the max frame rate on my Galaxy S23 Ultra, and the moment I go here and select the max, guys, I am going to immediately go to the high. So see here, I'm selecting max, okay, and the moment I select max, I only go to the high graphical settings. All right, guys, so now we are back to the settings, and let's just see what is gonna happen, guys. I'm using different maps. I know people will hate on this, but hey, it is still the very same game, and I'm not comparing it like frame by frame. I just want to see if the phone can endure and play this with like 60 FPS. And I do believe that based on what I've seen, all these phones are able to make this. All right, so let me just try to do some frags here, and then hopefully move to my other phone. But in the end of the day, guys, 60 FPS, I'm able to achieve 60 FPS on both phones, and there are just some minor drops, as you can see. 60 FPS here, 60 FPS here. Technically, I realize it's different maps, and I don't really care too much about this. Why? Because again, in this test, I'm measuring the ability of the phone to survive playing a game while also having a Facebook Messenger video call, which technically was not working on the previous game, which was the CarX. 60 FPS here, GPU 44, GPU 60 FPS here, guys. The GPU is 55 Celsius, and then the CPU 60 from the temps on the sensor, and then we have CPU location circa the same. Now it's time for me to also measure the temperature location. All right, so 41.2, okay, and 40 here. And now, guys, let's try to measure this as well. 40 and 38. Honestly, I don't have a feeling that this is gonna be a problem for all of those phones, right? Having this. So I'm gonna quit the game and I'm gonna move to a rather brutal scenario. For the next test, I wanna give credits to Nane Van for showing me this. So what is gonna happen right now is something that I never tried, and it sounds crazy. The thing is, I'm gonna be running 3dMark, the extreme stress test from Wildlife on all those phones, and also a CPU throttling test, guys. 100 threads for 20 minutes in a pop-up window. And according to Nane Van, he's really fried both CPU and GPU of his phone. And yep, well, here comes this brutal test. So let me just set it up, guys, and let's enjoy it. So this here is the CPU throttling test we're gonna use. I'm gonna go inside the options and I'm going to put 100 threads, all right? 100 threads. In One UI 6 on the S23 Ultra, I only have two profiles for performance, the standard one and the light one. And on the Xiaomi 14 Pro, I have the performance mode. I'm gonna switch this one, but then guys, I'm gonna do a little trick. So I'm gonna open Good Guardians and I'm going to select Thermal Guardian. And you might wonder why. Well, if you ask yourself this question, then you're probably not subscribed to my channel, so appreciate the sub. Now back to the topic, I'm going to increase the thermal threshold with 2 Celsius, which technically means that the phone is going to be able to tolerate more heat. Alright, probably the battery will drain faster, but the idea is that we hope to get more performance, right? Remember, we set here 100 threads. I'm gonna start the test on the S23 Ultra and also start the test on my Xiaomi 14 Pro. And with that said, guys, I'm also going to initiate the killer 3dMark test. This is something that I've never done. Benchmark failed to run, so apparently the Galaxy was not so happy with this scenario. Let me just try to do this one more time. Okay, now we have finally game on. I'm not gonna touch those phones, only measure temps because I can see already the problems. Let me take some measurements. 44 already on the Xiaomi, which is throttling like crazy. 39 still for the Galaxy. Let's see, 8 Gen 2 guys versus the 8 Gen 3, and we have a brutal scenario. According to Nane Van, this really pushed his 3 phones to the limit in terms of CPU, but also GPU. Well, why not? I mean, we have very high intensive graphics on the background. 3dMark is a extreme stress test, which means we're running this for 20 loops, and in the same time we are also running a full 3D. A problem again. After having some issues on both phones, I was able to start this one more time. You can imagine the phones are not happy with this, and we are now already in loop number 3 on the S23 Ultra, guys, and the 8 Gen is really killing it. Now let me give you some idea on how to read it. Green means crazy, this is good. Red means that the phone is throttling like crazy. But what is also crazy is the fact that the Xiaomi 14 Pro is doing like above 20 FPS on its test. And you can just see that the S23 Ultra is already using a slideshow. And when I say slideshow, yes, I mean technically very lower FPS. Okay, let me just try to measure some temps. This is something that I, by the way, never tried, so I just want to thank Nane Van again. 45 on the Xiaomi 14 Pro and 43 on the S23 Ultra. Technically, what I see here probably will make more use for me because I have higher FPS. But I've seen, this is really bad in terms of throttling. But okay, let's just see, and I have to do some more frequent temp measurements. 47.9. And we have 44 on the S23 Ultra, 44.1. Remember, I have increased the thermal threshold on my S23 Ultra with 2 Celsius, which means that right now this phone is just showing us every bit of juice it has. (49.2), we are slowly approaching the 50 Celsius here. 45.6 on the S23 Ultra. So yeah, the Xiaomi 14 Pro is running hotter. And again, guys, I think it's give it or take it. What would you take? This here, under very heavy load, we still have technically better FPS, or this here, right? Well, the FPS kind of sucks, but yeah, well, you can get somehow most of 10 performance, but it's not translated in the FPS of the test itself. I want to show you that the ambient temp here is 21.7, so technically is not that bad. And let's observe some very interesting results after 15 minutes here and after what I think is almost 15 minutes here. So guys, this is really throttling heavy in the CPU throttling test. Remember, 100 threads. Now it's time to measure some temps. Oh, all right, 50, we have achieved 50. 45.8 on the S23 Ultra. Oh my god, the benchmark failed here. Yeah, again guys, I don't think that this is really something we can try to finish. This really puts a lot of heavy strain on the phones. What happens if I just maximize this? CPU throttle it to 14% of its max performance, guys. And even the 3dMark was not able to finish. Let's see what is going to happen here. Here so far all stable, although in the beginning I had problems and was not able to finish the test as well. But okay, 15 minutes here, I think it's a fair point, so I'm gonna stop the test. And yep. CPU throttled to 80% of its max performance. And I also have a feeling that technically the S23 Ultra is gonna be able to finish this insane 3dMark, but I'm going to stop it right now. If I have to interpret these results, well, there is no easy explanation. You're not supposed to do things like this. So you either run the CPU throttling test or you run 3dMark test. But when I do this all together in this pop-up mode, then the thing is, the Agent 3 really had a bad performance. But inside, the FPS really was maybe 50 to 100% higher than what I've seen on 3dMark test on the Ultra. And now I'm going to show you guys. After I killed 3dMark, I'm going to run again the CPU throttling test just to see what is going to happen for another like 5 minutes. We don't really know if we have the best implementation here, and technically the S23 Ultra is a larger phone, right? So probably larger phone, and of course here we have probably even a better cooling. Now we examine drops on both phones, right? And now see what happens, guys. We are already back at 80%, and then boom, we still have a slight throttle here. And before I stop the video, let me do something else. You guessed that correct, guys. Let me start now my favorite Facebook video messenger call and then run the CPU throttling test on top. I think it's very obvious that this scenario will put a lot of strain and probably kill the phones, but let's just at least see what is going to happen in 5 minutes. After 2 minutes of CPU throttling test in a pop-up window and having a Facebook video messenger call at the same time, we can now see that the Agent 2 inside the S23 Ultra is struggling. Why and how can we see this? Well, technically we are now having something like 60-65% of the performance, although the performance in terms of GIPS is still a bit better or higher than what we have here. Here we are almost at the end of the test. Why? Because I need at least 5 minutes of CPU throttling test to be able to determine how much the phone throttled. But before I stop the test, guys, I want to show you some temps. 45 like a boss on the Xiaomi, which we now can do 50, and 44.7, so very equalized. So I'm gonna stop the test here and stop the test here. So CPU throttled to 81% of its max performance, and here the CPU throttled to 88%. So technically in this scenario the Agent 3 was doing better. Now another important fact, guys, the performance. The max rating here 258 GIPS, higher than the Agent 3. The average is also lower and the minimum one is 150. Which is really weird, but at the end of the day, this is what the tool shows us. So if you like videos like this, guys, again, you're more than welcome to support the channel. If you have ideas, share them. If I like your ideas, we'll put this in a video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Whew. And those phones, I hope I can tell you, VST over, bye.